I noticed that my instruments were malfunctioning, and at the same time I'm feeling this unbelievable sensation. This says we finally exited the tunnel.
March 1918. A U.S. Navy ship the size of a small skyscraper leaves port carrying 300 people. It never sends a distress signal. It never reaches its destination. And to this day, the United States Navy has never found a single piece of it. No wreckage, no lifeboat, nothing. That ship is just one name on a list that's grown for over a century. Ships, planes, entire crews, all gone in the same stretch of ocean, all without a clear answer. Some people say it's just bad luck and worse weather. Others aren't so sure. Today, we're going deep into the case files of the Bermuda Triangle, and by the end, you can decide for yourself if the explanation really adds up. To understand how it starts, you have to go back to before this place even showed up on a map. It begins in 1492, with Christopher Columbus sailing west across the Atlantic on his very first voyage. On the night of October 11th, just hours before his crew spots land in the Americas, things get strange. Columbus writes in his logbook that his compass needle drifted overnight, and out on the horizon, he sees a light he describes as looking like a small candle rising and falling in the distance. From there, the stories start piling up. Through the 1700s and 1800s, as trade routes fill the western Atlantic with ships crossing between Europe, the Caribbean, and the American colonies, the hard-to-explain stories start showing up too. In 1840, a French ship named the Rosalie is found drifting near the Bahamas, almost completely intact. Sails still raised, cargo still stacked, but there's no crew. Every sailor on board is gone. In 1881, a ship crossing the area spots another vessel drifting nearby, untouched but completely empty. A few sailors row over to check it out. No sign of a struggle, no damage, nothing. A storm rolls in and separates the two ships, and by the time they find each other again, the men who climbed aboard the empty ship are gone too. Stories like these build the reputation of this stretch of ocean over the decades, long before anyone puts a name to it. The area itself is formed by connecting 3 points on the map: Miami, San Juan, and Bermuda, covering roughly 500,000 square miles of open water that sits right on top of some of the busiest shipping and flight routes on the planet. Cruise ships, oil tankers, military vessels, and passenger planes cross through here every single day, connecting the United States to the Caribbean and Europe. Long before anyone uses the term Bermuda Triangle, sailors are already calling it the graveyard of the Atlantic. That reputation is exactly what the ship from the beginning of this video sailed into. That was the USS Cyclops, a massive Navy cargo vessel measuring over 500 feet long and weighing more than 19,000 tons. Not a small or fragile ship by any measure. She left Barbados on March 4, 1918, headed for Baltimore, carrying 306 people and more than 10,000 tons of manganese ore on a well-known route with nothing especially dangerous about it. Shortly after departure, she simply dropped off the map. No distress signal, no final message, nothing. The Navy searched for more than a month and found nothing. No wreckage, no lifeboats, no survivors. The case goes down as one of the biggest unsolved mysteries in American naval history. One leading theory points to the weather, combined with mechanical trouble the Cyclops already had before leaving port. Add in the cargo, 10,000 tons of manganese can shift if the sea turns violent, and if it slides suddenly, the ship's center of gravity changes in an instant, capsizing her within minutes. There's another theory too, a structural flaw in the design itself. Two sister ships built to the same blueprint, the USS Proteus and USS Nereus, both disappear in 1941, hauling heavy cargo from the Caribbean. Oceanographer Simon Boxall has pointed out that ships like these had long, flat hulls, making them vulnerable to a direct hit from a rogue wave, enough to send one under in seconds, far too fast to radio for help. None of this can actually be proven, and without wreckage there's no way to know for sure. For decades, the Cyclops case fuels every theory imaginable, and from that point on, every new disappearance in this stretch of ocean gets a lot more attention. It's December 5th, 1945, only months after the end of World War II, the Navy is still training new pilots. At the Naval Air Station in Fort Lauderdale, 5 TBM Avenger torpedo bombers get ready for a routine flight. 14 men are flying this mission, led by Lieutenant Charles Taylor, a veteran with more than 2,500 flight hours behind him. The plan is simple: fly roughly 200 miles east, run a bombing drill near the Bahamas, turn north, then head back to Florida. At 2:10 in the afternoon, the 5 planes take off in clear skies with excellent visibility, and the first stretch of the flight goes exactly as planned. Around 3:45, something changes. A message hits the control tower. "I'm not sure of our position." Taylor reports his compasses aren't working right and that he doesn't recognize the landscape below. Controllers try guiding them west toward Florida, but the squadron doesn't seem sure which way west even is anymore. As fuel runs low and darkness sets in, one of the last transmissions comes through. "Everything looks strange. The ocean doesn't look right, like we're flying over white water." Then contact is lost completely. 5 planes, 14 men, gone. A rescue plane, a PBM Mariner seaplane, launches that same night, and just 20 minutes after takeoff, it disappears too. Now it's 27 men and 6 aircraft missing in the same stretch of ocean. The Navy sends out more than 300 planes and every ship available, covering roughly 100,000 square miles. The result is the same as always: nothing. The official report lists the cause as unknown, but investigators have since pieced together a likely explanation. Taylor believed they were over the Florida Keys, but Flight 19 had actually flown over Great Abaco Island in the Bahamas, which looks similar from the air. That mistake sent the planes further out to sea, and by the time other pilots questioned the call, they were already miles off track and completely lost with fuel running out. Most likely, they went down somewhere north of Abaco and east of Florida. A torpedo bomber sinks fast after hitting the water, and at night in open ocean, finding wreckage is nearly impossible. As for the rescue plane, a merchant ship in the area that night reported a massive explosion in the sky followed by a fireball hitting the sea. The Mariner likely suffered an internal explosion, a known risk with that model, which pilots nicknamed the flying gas tank for how easily it built up flammable fumes. With that, the case seems more or less solved, but the mystery doesn't end there. On January 30th, 1948, an Avro Tudor 4 named the Star Tiger takes off for Bermuda with a stopover in the Azores, carrying 31 people under Captain Brian McMillan, an experienced pilot. Strong headwinds force the plane lower than usual to save fuel. At 3:15 in the morning, she checks in with the tower, confirming everything's fine. Then she stops responding entirely, and the search that follows turns up nothing. Less than a year later, the same airline loses another Avro Tudor 4, the Star Ariel, this time in perfect weather, not a cloud in the sky. The last transmission places her about 150 miles south of Bermuda, requesting a frequency change. Then she's gone too. Investigators suspect mechanical failure with the Star Tiger, but with the Star Ariel, nothing explains it. No storms, no known issues, just silence. That lack of answers is exactly what catches the attention of the press. In September 1950, journalist Edward Van Winkle Jones publishes a piece through the Associated Press, printed in papers including the Miami Herald, describing a string of disappearances clustered near Florida, the Bahamas, and Bermuda. He raises a question that starts gaining traction. What if all of this is connected? The idea keeps growing through the 1950s, but everything changes in 1964, when writer Vincent Gaddis publishes an article in Argosy magazine titled "The Deadly Bermuda Triangle." Gaddis draws a triangle connecting Miami, Puerto Rico, and Bermuda, placing the most famous cases inside it. There's no hard evidence, but the concept is perfect. The mystery finally has a name, a shape, and a story to back it up. More cases pile up through the century. In 1967, a small yacht called the Witchcraft disappears near Miami after radioing in about a minor issue less than 2 miles from shore. Rescue teams arrive within 20 minutes, but the yacht is simply gone. Not every story ends that way, though. On December 4th, 1970, pilot Bruce Gernon takes off from Andros Island in the Bahamas with his father and a business partner aboard, headed for Florida on a route he knows well. Thick clouds build fast, and within minutes, the plane gets swallowed by a strange gray haze. They lose all visual reference, and the compass needle starts spinning without any pattern. Then the haze clears, and Florida appears below them, except they're directly over Miami Beach, when, by Bruce's math, they should still be miles away near Bimini. They land in Palm Beach, and the flight took under 47 minutes when the same route normally takes about 75. Nearly 30 minutes are simply unaccounted for. Bruce has since described it as a kind of time distortion, even comparing it to a wormhole. Whatever it was, the numbers don't add up, and that's why his story remains one of the strangest on record. Every new disappearance, even the small ones, gets folded into the same larger story. By the early 1970s, the mystery is showing up in newspapers and magazines everywhere, but it's still not a worldwide phenomenon. That changes in 1974 with the release of The Bermuda Triangle by Charles Berlitz, a book that compiles dozens of disappearances and pushes one central idea, that these events might be caused by something science can't yet explain. Berlitz leans into every theory available. He raises the idea of extraterrestrial spacecraft pulling ships and planes out of the sky, even suggesting an alien base on the ocean floor. He brings up Atlantis, the mythical city described by the Greek philosopher Plato, said to have vanished beneath the sea after a great catastrophe. Several writers, including the famous American psychic Edgar Cayce, had already placed Atlantis near the Bahamas, and Berlitz suggests its lost technology might still be interfering with compasses and radios today. He even floats the idea of wormholes distorting space and time, plus old sailor tales of giant sea creatures and vortexes strong enough to pull ships under. The book becomes a massive hit, translated into more than 30 languages and selling millions of copies. Almost overnight, this stops being just a strange news story and becomes a full-blown global mystery, spawning documentaries and even a 1977 film adaptation. But as the mystery grows, some researchers push back. Librarian and pilot Lawrence Kusha spends years reviewing every disappearance case by case, publishing The Bermuda Triangle Mystery Solved in 1975. Instead of drama, Kusha digs through official records, and what he finds looks very different from the popular books. The Western Atlantic is one of the most weather-active regions on the planet, producing many of the hurricanes that hit the North Atlantic each year, with winds over 120 miles per hour and waves reaching 50 or 60 feet. For most of the 19th and 20th centuries, ships and planes had no weather radar. Calm seas in the morning could turn into a violent storm by afternoon with zero warning. Then there's the Gulf Stream, one of the strongest ocean currents on Earth, running from the Gulf of Mexico past Florida and the Bahamas at speeds topping 4 miles per hour, roughly 3 times faster than the Amazon River. That's more than enough to push a ship hundreds of miles off course, and anything that ends up in that current can scatter across thousands of square miles of ocean within days, which explains why search operations so often turn up nothing. The geography doesn't help either. The Bahamas are made up of thousands of small islands, reefs and sandbanks, easy to hit if a ship drifts even slightly off course. Then there's the compass problem. Sailors have long claimed their compasses go haywire out here, and there's real science behind it. The Earth's magnetic field isn't perfectly uniform. There's a gap between true north, the fixed point the planet spins around, and magnetic north, where a compass actually points. That gap is called magnetic declination, and navigators have to correct for it. But in a handful of spots on the planet, declination sits at nearly zero, meaning the compass points straight at true north instead of where sailors expect. The Western Atlantic is one of those rare spots, and for centuries navigators mistook this for a malfunctioning compass, leading to serious course errors. If you strip away the theories and look at the numbers, one fact stands out. The accident rate inside the Bermuda Triangle isn't actually higher than anywhere else in the ocean, and the United States government doesn't even officially recognize it as a defined region. There's also a phenomenon called the Baader-Meinhof effect, or frequency illusion. Once you start noticing something, you suddenly see it everywhere. Buy a new car, and suddenly that same model seems to be on every street corner. Something similar may have happened here. Once the name Bermuda Triangle existed, every disappearance in the area got filed under it, making the pattern feel far stronger than the numbers actually support. Weather, ocean currents, geography, and a name that made people start counting. For most of the cases on this list, that's enough to close the file. Most of them, but not all of them. Go back to where we started. The USS Cyclops was a 19,000-ton Navy ship in radio contact right up until she wasn't, sailing a route her crew had done before, and over 100 years later, not one piece of her has ever been found. No storm report that matches, no confirmed wreck site, just a ship that was there and then wasn't. Maybe it was the manganese shifting in the hold. Maybe it was a rogue wave that hid a design flaw no one caught until 2 more ships went down the same way. Maybe it's exactly what it looks like on paper, a 306-person ship that vanished without a trace in a place that still hasn't given up all its answers. You've heard the cases and the science behind most of them. What you do with the ones that don't quite fit, that part's up to you. So, accident or something else? Let me know in the comments. And if you're into cases like this, subscribe. There's more coming.